Some warnings come as labels. The worst ones come as timestamps.
2:17 a.m. A throwaway account. One post, then silence. No profile pics, no flair. Just a trail of edits that ends abruptly. This is Lermo Stories. Verified accounts? None. Verified chills? Plenty. Listen closely. Some threads never really close.
I took the job up north, out past Fort Winstead, early February. Relay station tucked into the woods. One road in, barely plowed, no neighbors, concrete box, low ceilings, cold walls, just enough space for one man, a rack of old equipment, and a cot that smelled like diesel and dust. I was fine with that. Isolation never bothered me. The station mostly ran itself. Low-frequency transmissions, classified origin, classified destination. My job was just to keep it stable, monitor signal drift, adjust gain if things got too noisy, and log anomalies. Night shifts were best. No interruptions, just you and the hum of machines. On the third night, around 3 a.m., I noticed a slight distortion on channel 3A. It wasn't much, a fluctuation in the static. Looked like minor interference. I tuned it manually and caught a faint sound under the noise, soft, broken, like a voice. Not clearly, it was buried deep. Could have been imagination, the kind of thing you hear when you've been staring at waveforms too long. Still, it stuck with me. Next night, same time, 3:11 exactly, it came back. Louder this time. A whisper, rhythmic, almost patterned, but not in English, not even close. No numbers, no call signs, just tone, murmur, silence. I started recording it, labeled it interference in the log. By the fifth night, the pattern had become too consistent to ignore. Always at 3:11, like clockwork, always the same cadence. I filtered the recordings, slowed them down. It wasn't radio chatter, not from a vessel, not from a beacon. There was a voice and emotion behind it, urgency, like someone trying to speak through layers of ice. I didn't report it to command. Something about it felt wrong. Not in a procedural sense, wrong in a human sense. I couldn't explain it. The more I listened, the more I felt like I wasn't supposed to. The night after that, I stayed up past shift, just listening. When the voice cut out, I thought it was over. But around 4:06 a.m., the equipment rack gave this low electronic groan, like something warming up that hadn't been used in years. The main terminal blinked. No alerts, no warnings, just a new system file open on the screen. I hadn't touched anything. There was a block of text, plain, almost like a report, but it wasn't from me. It described the signal. Detailed. Too detailed. And at the very bottom, it said I was stable. I didn't know what that meant. And then I heard it. Not through the headphones, not through the equipment, from the wall. Not outside, not above, from within the concrete. A deep, slow breathing, like something was on the other side. Listening back, the breathing stopped when I stood up. I just sat there, frozen for maybe 5 minutes. Listening. No more movement, no more signal, just the faint hum of the relay equipment and the wind scraping across the vent grills. I ran a full diagnostic sweep, nothing flagged, all systems normal, no logs of the file being created. According to the terminal, it never existed. I'd have thought I imagined it, except the headphones were still warm, like someone else had just been using them. The next day, I stayed off the main systems. I brought in a portable receiver I kept in my truck, tuned it to 3A manually, isolated from the station's core. 3:11 a.m., right on time. The signal came through, louder now, still garbled, but less chaotic, like it was adjusting itself to be more understandable. Words still didn't make sense, but I recognized structure. Breath between phrases. Stops, starts. It was speaking. I listened for 12 minutes before the signal dropped. 12 minutes exactly. Same duration every night since. There was one more thing. In the final few seconds of the broadcast, the pitch shifted. Barely, but enough to feel wrong. Not wrong like a glitch, wrong like being stared at. It made me feel exposed, vulnerable, like the sound wasn't being sent, but aimed. I stopped sleeping after that. Didn't feel safe closing my eyes, kept the lights on, gear running. I started checking the walls at night, tapping for hollows, listening through the metal conduit. looking for something I couldn't name. 3 nights later, I woke up without remembering falling asleep. Still in the chair, head rolled forward, terminal screen off, every indicator light on the rack was dead. The power hadn't gone out. Only the internal systems had shut down. Then they came back, exactly at 3:11. Not all at once, one light at a time, left to right, like something was moving through the circuits, waking them up. The signal hit again, louder than ever. This time, I couldn't just hear it. I felt it, like a pressure inside my skull. Not painful, just there, like being underwater. The voice came through clear for just a second. One word, but drawn out like a held breath. Listen. Not a suggestion, a command. And then, everything cut out. No static, no hum, no transmission. Dead silence. I waited. I don't know how long. Then I saw it. On the floor, under the equipment rack. Something had been dragged. A thin smear of dust shifted, like a wire had moved. But nothing was there. That morning, I tried calling Regional Command. The uplink was dead. Satellite feed had full bars, but no return ping. It wasn't just my end. No outgoing signals were leaving the station. And that night, the broadcast didn't come at 3:11. It came at 2:47. I knew the pattern was breaking. The signal came early, 2:47. No static, no distortion, just the voice. Calm, slower, still not in any language I knew, but it sounded intentional. Like it was adjusting itself, like it knew I was listening closer now. And I was, not out of curiosity anymore, something deeper, something that felt like hunger. I couldn't stop. That night, after the signal ended, I checked the mirror above the sink. There was dried blood in both ears. I hadn't noticed it until then. The next night, I left the equipment on record and sat in the dark. I don't know what I was waiting for. The transmission had ended, but the feeling hadn't. It lingered, like a pressure in the air. At 4:30 a.m., I heard a knock. 3 slow hits on the back hatch. Not the door I use, the emergency exit. Reinforced, sealed. I didn't move, just listened. No second knock. The next morning, I found the flare gun missing from the emergency locker. The headset I wasn't using was neatly coiled on the floor beside it. I didn't file a report. I couldn't. By then, the voice wasn't just in the transmissions. I started hearing it in the hum of the generator, the buzz of the lights, even the silence between my own breaths. Always that same rhythm, not language, imitation of language, like it was trying to learn. And I think it had learned enough. The final night, I waited. Nothing came through the signal. No spike. No distortion. But when I checked the recorder later, it had captured something. A voice. My voice. I hadn't spoken, but there it was, me, speaking in that same cadence, same not language, as if something had used me, spoken through me, left a trace. That was when I left. I didn't power anything down, I just walked. 15 miles through snow until I got cell reception. I didn't call base, I didn't call anyone. I still have the tapes. Most people just hear static. Some say it sounds like breathing. One guy said it reminded him of a wet dog panting behind glass. I haven't played them in weeks, but sometimes, late at night, when everything's quiet, I still hear that voice, under the silence, waiting. I don't usually post here. I just read and scroll like most of you. But something happened earlier this week that I can't explain. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Maybe someone here will understand. My name's Mark. I'm 34. I live alone in a 1-bedroom apartment in Chicago. I work as a freelance photographer. Weddings, real estate, whatever pays the bills. This happened Tuesday night. I just finished editing a set of wedding photos. It was a little after 11. I was tired, but decided to double-check one of my archive folders before shutting down. Just habit. That's when I saw something that didn't belong. A folder I don't remember creating. I clicked it. Inside was just one photo, only one. It was a picture of my living room. Same furniture, same lighting. My couch, the coffee table, the old train station print on the wall. But the angle, it wasn't from where I'd ever taken a shot. It was from the corner near the hallway. I don't even have a tripod that tall. Then I saw myself. in the photo. I was sitting on the couch, hunched over, scrolling on my phone. I looked completely unaware. I checked the time on the photo details. It had been taken less than an hour earlier, but I didn't take it, and no one else was here. I checked my camera, nothing new. My backups, empty. Even my phone had no recent images. It was sharp, high quality, definitely taken with a DSLR, but I didn't shoot it. I just sat there, staring at it. I remember the way my sock was half off my foot, the way my hand rested on my leg. It was too exact. I tried to delete it. The window froze. When I reopened the folder, it was gone. No trace. No recycle bin, no recent files. I ran a recovery program. Nothing. But I know I saw it. And later, when I went to get a glass of water, I noticed the lamp, the small one next to the couch. It was tilted, just a few degrees off, exactly like in the photo. I hadn't touched it.
I barely slept that night. Every sound felt louder than usual. Pipes ticking, fridge humming. I thought I heard something light shift across the hardwood floor around 3 a.m., but when I got up, nothing was out of place. The next morning, I convinced myself I'd imagined it. Maybe I'd left an old camera running without realizing it. Maybe it was some corrupted file that got mislabeled. But the thing is, I don't forget what I shoot. Ever. It's my job. I remember the feel of every lens, every click. There's no way I took that photo. I tried to brush it off. I made coffee, sat down at my desk, opened up Lightroom to get back to editing, but then something caught my eye. My screen flickered, just for a second, and then a photo appeared. It was the same room, but a different moment. Now I was standing by the window, back turned, holding a mug. Same light, same time of day, but this time the photo looked more recent. It hadn't been there a second ago. It was just on my desktop. No folder, no import notification, just there. I didn't move. I just stared at it. It looked exactly like me. Same hoodie I'd thrown on that morning, same chipped mug, but I hadn't been near the window. I reached for my phone, opened the camera app, took a photo of my screen. Proof. But when I looked at the shot, the image on my monitor wasn't visible, just the wallpaper. I checked the desktop again. The photo was gone, like it had never been there. I felt cold all over. I pulled the blind shut, checked every room. Nothing. Front door locked, no signs of anyone inside. I even unscrewed the vent covers to make sure no one had hidden anything. Nothing but dust. That afternoon, I left and took my gear to a friend's studio downtown. Slept on his couch. Didn't tell him why. Just said my power was out. I stayed there 2 nights. When I came back Friday afternoon, everything was where I left it. Apartment was quiet, still. Except one thing. The mirror in the hallway. An old one, with a wooden frame that creaks if you so much as brush against it. Had a smudge on it. A long, faint streak near the top right corner, like someone had touched it with their palm. I hadn't used that mirror in weeks, and the angle? It was too high for me to reach without standing on my toes. I cleaned the mirror. Carefully. I didn't want to see that mark anymore, but I didn't want to smudge it more either. I just needed it gone. The rest of Friday passed without anything unusual. No photos, no flickers. I left my gear off, didn't touch the computer. I read, I ate, I watched something dumb to distract myself. By the time it got dark, I almost felt normal again. Then around 2 a.m., I woke up. Not suddenly, more like gently. The kind of waking where your body's still but your mind is alert. The room was dead quiet. And I had the worst feeling I've ever had in my life. Like something was in the apartment. I stayed still for a long time, listening. Nothing. Then I sat up, heart going fast. I reached for my phone to check the time. The screen lit up, 2:08 a.m., but there was no signal, no Wi-Fi either. I stood up slowly, walked out of the bedroom. Everything looked normal. No lights on, hallway empty, living room dark, but the air felt heavy, like when you walk into a room someone just left. I don't know what made me do it, maybe instinct, but I turned toward the shelf where I keep my backup SD cards. There's a case, small black zipper pouch. I hadn't used it in over a week. I opened it. There was a card inside, no label,
I took it to my desk, slid it into the reader, opened the file directory. It was full. Hundreds of photos. All of my apartment. Every room, every angle, most taken at night. Some from slightly above eye level, some from corners I'd never stood in. Some of them had me in them. Sleeping, showering, eating. I couldn't breathe. My throat locked up. The images had timestamps going back months. The most recent one was from that night. A shot of me lying in bed, blanket half off, mouth slightly open. I pulled the card, hard. Deleted everything. Or tried. The files kept coming back. I grabbed my gear bag, laptop, keys. I left. Didn't even lock the door. I stayed at a hotel that night. Cheap place, no questions asked. I barely slept. Every knock on the wall, every hallway footstep, I flinched. The next morning, I went back to the apartment. Not inside, just stood across the street, looked at the windows. I thought about calling the cops, but what would I say? Someone took ghost pictures of me? I moved out the next week, got a new place, started over. I still shoot, but I wipe every SD card after every job now. I keep my cameras in a locked case. I haven't had any more strange photos show up. But sometimes, late at night, if I wake up and my phone screen is already on, like it just finished using the camera, I don't check the gallery. I turn it off, and I try to go back to sleep.
I don't know why I'm writing this. Maybe it's just to put it somewhere. I'm not even sure what I expect from it. My name's Evan. I'm 31. I live alone in a one-bedroom apartment in a part of town that's gone quiet over the years. The kind of quiet that feels staged. I collect antiques, not seriously, just stuff from estate sales, thrift stores. I like objects that feel like they belonged to someone else long before I ever touched them. About 6 weeks ago, I bought a mask. It was at this small, cluttered shop, wedged between a boarded-up laundromat and a vape store. I'd never noticed it before. No sign on the door, no name. Inside, it smelled like old paper and metal. The mask was hanging near the back. It wasn't like the other junk, not colorful, not theatrical, just matte black, smooth, almost featureless, no markings, no straps. What caught me was the surface. It didn't reflect anything, not like it was just dull, like it absorbed light. Even under the buzzing shop lights, it stayed flat, dead. I asked the guy behind the counter how much it was. He just looked at me for a second and said, "Take it." I asked again. He just waved his hand, didn't even look up. So I took it. I set it on the shelf in my living room, between an old metronome and a broken clock. It looked out of place. Everything else on that shelf had history, character. The mask just sat there. Didn't seem old, didn't seem new. That night, I kept glancing at it while I watched TV, like I expected it to move. Of course it didn't. It just sat there. But here's where it started getting weird. The next morning, when I walked past the shelf, I realized the mask wasn't in the same spot. It had shifted slightly, turned just a little to the left. I told myself I must have bumped the shelf, maybe when I dusted. But the thing is, I hadn't dusted in days. Still, I moved it back, centered it. That night, I had a dream. I was standing in my living room. Everything looked normal, except I couldn't move. I was facing the mask. It was where I left it, but closer, at eye level. No shelf, no wall behind it, just darkness. Then it blinked. Just once. No sound, no change in expression, just two black lids closing and opening. I woke up, sweating. It was 3:11 a.m. When I walked into the living room to clear my head, the mask was turned again, this time to the right. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. I tried to ignore it. For the next few days, I avoided looking at the shelf too long. I kept the lights on in the apartment even when I left. I played music constantly, old ambient records mostly, just to keep the silence from building. But the mask kept shifting. Never when I was watching, only when I turned away, left the room, came back. I even started taking photos with my phone before bed, just to prove to myself it was real. Every morning, it would be angled differently, slightly turned, sometimes tilted, always subtle, always deliberate. I stopped sleeping, or when I did, it was shallow, broken. Every night, I'd wake up around the same time, sometime between 2 and 3 a.m. Not to a noise, just awareness, like something was standing in the doorway.
but there never was. Until Thursday. I was brushing my teeth, the bathroom mirror fogged from the shower, and for just a moment I thought I saw the mask. Not behind me, not in the reflection, but in the fog. Like the shape of it had been pressed into the steam. I turned around fast. Nothing. That night, I put it in the closet, shut the door, stacked a few books in front of it like that would mean anything. I even said out loud, "You're just a thing." I don't know why I said that. I hadn't said a word all day. At 3:12 a.m., I woke up to a single sound, a soft clunk. I got up, turned on every light as I moved, walked straight to the closet. The books were still there, undisturbed, but the door was slightly open. Inside, the mask was no longer on the shelf. It was on the floor, face up, looking directly at me. I kicked the door shut and left it. Didn't open it again until morning. I told myself I'd get rid of it, bring it back to the shop, throw it out. But when I went to grab it, it was back on the shelf. Not in the closet, back where it had been originally, perfectly centered. I didn't move it. I hadn't touched it. I haven't had anyone over. I barely leave the apartment. And here's the worst part. When I looked at it this time, really looked at it, I realized it wasn't matte anymore. There was something like a sheen to it. Not a reflection exactly, just movement, faint, shifting, like something was behind it, trying to get through. I didn't touch it again after that. I left the apartment for a while, stayed with my sister 2 towns over. Didn't tell her why, just said my building had a gas leak or something. She didn't ask questions, she never does. I stayed for 3 nights, slept better, not great, but better. No dreams, no 3 a.m. wake-ups, no movement in the corner of my eye. But I kept thinking about it. The mask. I started to wonder if maybe I was just going through something, sleep deprivation, stress, some kind of hallucination loop. I even made an appointment with a therapist, just in case. By the 4th night, I felt distant, like the apartment wasn't real anymore, like it was frozen in time, waiting. I went back the next morning. It was quiet, too quiet, the kind where you feel like sound itself is holding its breath. The air smelled stale, like dust and something else, like wood that's been wet too long. Everything looked untouched. The lights were off. I walked straight to the shelf. The mask was gone. I stood there for maybe 5 minutes, not moving, not breathing. Then I turned. It was on the table, placed perfectly in the center, facing the chair where I usually sit. There was no sound, but I swear I felt something, like the air had weight again, pressure, like I'd walked into a room someone just left, or maybe someone who hadn't left at all. I took it and threw it in a plastic bag, sealed it, duct taped it, put it in a box, drove to a public dumpster 2 neighborhoods away, watched it drop in, came home, sat on the floor for a long time, not doing anything. That night, around 3:20 a.m., I woke up. Not from a dream, just woke. The apartment was silent, no cars outside. My phone buzzed. It was face down on the nightstand. I picked it up. 1 notification, just the photo app, open. It had taken a photo. I don't remember doing it. I don't even remember unlocking the phone. But the image was clear. It was me, lying in bed, eyes closed. The angle was low, from the foot of the bed, like someone had been crouching there, watching. I stared at it. My hands were shaking. I hit delete. It froze. Then the app closed itself. I turned on the lights, searched the whole apartment, closet, cabinets, under the bed. Nothing. No sound, no presence. But when I sat back down at the edge of the bed, I saw it. In the mirror. Behind me. Not the mask, just the space where it should have been. A perfect outline. No reflection. Just void. Like the shape of something that was still there, still watching. I wasn't going to share this. We're not supposed to. Even among ourselves, we don't really talk about the weird ones. You shrug it off, blame the heat, dehydration, bad sleep, you learn to forget. But this one, I haven't forgotten. It's been almost a year. It still feels like it just happened. Name's Mason. I've been a firefighter for 14 years. Seen a lot of twisted stuff. You'd be surprised how fast a house can go from perfectly normal to completely unrecognizable. This call came in late. It was early October, one of those dry, windless nights where everything feels brittle. Structure fire, residential, edge of the county, single-story house, isolated. I remember the dispatcher's voice sounded off, not panicked, just strange, flat. We rolled out, me, Torres, and Haley, standard engine team. By the time we got there, the fire was already halfway through the place. Flames were eating through the roof like paper. The whole front porch had collapsed inward, and the windows were blacked out with thick, slow-moving smoke. There was something wrong with it. The smoke, it wasn't rising. It poured out heavy and low like fog spilling down a slope, stayed close to the ground. It didn't look right, and it didn't smell right either. Usually it's sharp, burnt insulation, scorched wiring. This was sweet, damp, like wet leaves and copper. Torres noticed it too, said it felt like it was sticking to his gear. There were no screams, no movement. Haley circled around back while we breached the front, threw teen, and killed the firefighters. Inside it was worse. The visibility was zero. We moved by feel. The smoke didn't swirl or shift when we walked through it. It just hung there, still. We were maybe 30 feet in when my comms started crackling. Then I heard something. Not on the radio, not in my ears exactly, more like a vibration. Inside my mask, I stopped, raised my hand. Torres bumped into me. And I heard it again. A voice. Whispered, low but clear. Right in my ear. You're not supposed to see. I thought it was a hallucination, oxygen deprivation. I tapped my air gauge. It was green. We pressed on toward what used to be the living room. And then I saw someone. Only for a second, a figure standing in the smoke, maybe 10 feet ahead, not moving, just standing, perfectly still. And it wasn't wearing gear. I called out, "Fire department, hey!" reflexively, knowing full well it didn't make sense. No answer, no movement. Torres didn't see them. He just kept moving forward, head low, sweeping with a thermal. But I couldn't stop looking. The figure wasn't reacting. Not turning, not even swaying with the air currents. It was like the smoke bent around it, like it didn't belong to the rest of the scene. I took a step closer, trying to get a better look, and suddenly, just gone. Not walked away, not hidden, just not there anymore. And then my radio squawked. Haley's voice came through, clipped and distorted. Something about the back door. I couldn't make it out. I tried to answer, but my mic was dead. Torres turned to me and asked if I'd said something. I shook my head. That's when we started hearing it. Both of us. Whispers. From inside the walls. Not words. Not fully. Just shapes of them. Patterns. Like breath that carried intention, but no form. It wasn't coming from above or behind. It was in the drywall. I pulled out. I didn't say anything. I just tapped Torres, pointed back toward the entrance, and we both started moving. Fast, but controlled. As we passed through the hallway, I swear I saw handprints in the soot on the floorboards. Small ones. Dozens. Not moving, not fresh, but placed, carefully, arranged. Outside, I ripped off my mask and took a breath of clean air. It felt cold and sharp and wrong, like I had just woken up. Haley met us by the rig. His face was pale. Said he'd found the back door open, but it didn't lead anywhere, just blackness, like someone had taken a blowtorch and burned a hole through the night. He said it felt like the house wasn't on fire, like it was already gone. None of that made sense, and I didn't want to talk about it. I told him to get back to work. We had to do a sweep. But we never got the chance. The roof collapsed 15 minutes later. The entire structure went down into itself, almost too fast, like it had just given up. Later, I filed the report. We said it was electrical, old wiring. No casualties confirmed. The house had been vacant for 6 years, according to records. No furniture, no utilities, and no signs of forced entry. But someone had been there. I know what I saw. I know what I heard. After the report was filed, we were told to move on. That's how it works. No one wants ghost stories in the official logs. But 2 days later, I went back. Alone. It was just after sundown. The air was cold and still. I parked across the road and walked up the gravel drive with a flashlight. A lot of parties also wanting as a heart of the flashlight steps. There wasn't much left, just a blackened foundation, some broken support beams curled inward. The kind of ruins that feel like they're waiting to be buried. But something was off again. The ash, it wasn't scattered. It was neatly arranged, swept into long, narrow patterns, like someone had raked it, or dragged their hands through it. I stood at the edge for a long time. Then I stepped in. Crunch of boots on cinders. The beam of the flashlight cutting through the darkness. I made it maybe 10 steps in before I felt it. The cold. Not a breeze, not the air. It was the absence of heat. Like walking into a room sealed off from the world. Like stepping into a basement that had never known light. And the whisper came back. Clearer now, like a breath pressed against the inside of my skull. You saw. You weren't supposed to. I froze. Not just out of fear, I mean, I literally couldn't move. My limbs wouldn't respond, my breath caught in my throat. Something passed by me. I couldn't see it, but I felt the shift, the faint drag of air, the weight of being noticed. The light flickered. And for one split second, the beam caught something in the ash, a footprint. But not a boot. Bare, small, child-sized, facing me. And there were no other prints leading to or from it, just that one, like it had been left for me to find. I backed out slowly, not turning my back until I was on the driveway again. Didn't speak, didn't think, just got in my truck and drove. I haven't been back since. A few weeks later, I looked up the property. Just curiosity. Turns out the house had burned once before, 1988. Same lot, different structure. No survivors. The fire was ruled as unexplained. No accelerants, no source ever found. The report said it started in the walls. I don't know why I'm writing this now. Maybe just to get it out of me. Maybe because I still hear it sometimes. That voice, faint and close. You saw. And I did.
They whisper when the video ends. You might think it's the wind, or just your mind trying to fill the silence, but if you listen carefully, you'll notice it's the same voices, the ones from the stories. They never really stop talking. They're just waiting for the noise to fade so you can hear them clearly. This was Lermo Stories. Don't play this again. Or maybe that's exactly what they want.